Right, I'm really hungry, but I just wanted to make this video to go over what I'm going through at the moment and try and lay it all out to see if this makes sense. Recently, I've been ripping my mind apart, trying to figure out which religion is the right way forward. And in my mind at the moment, ultimately, each religion at their true core, at the good of what they do, leads to the same thing. Recently, I became a Christian and have had so many moments of the best parts about that, the true joy of being in touch and connection to God, the creator of the universe, the creator of everything, the spiritual being that oversees all of this. And then I've had other times where I've been full of doubt and trying to understand if I made the right choice and overthinking it and trying to get all the answers and asking why. And that's been really painful. But what I just realized before, I went on a long walk, a bit of a prayer walk, if you will, and really got into some deep conversations and topics with God. And what I kind of came to the realization of is there's enough evidence to say that Jesus walked this earth, that there was a man named Jesus who walked this earth. What we know about Jesus is that he was this perfect incarnation of God, that essentially he was God, that he claimed to be the Son of God. He is God in human form. So purely 100% of the time connected with God in spirit, in flesh, in mind, in that freedom of God and doing God's will because he is God. So there's this man who's Jesus, who's walking the earth and living like that. Then this man, through all he teaches, all his moral stuff, all the miracles he did that are recorded, we get to see who that man is. And just from looking at that man, we get to understand, does what he's saying, do these teachings, do these miracles open something up in me to spark belief, to spark synergy, to understanding? Does it appeal something in us to be like, yeah, that is right? And so we get to look at all his teachings and all he did and assess who he really is, who the true nature of God, of Jesus is. That's all good. There's been a lot of teachers who have done that, who have shown the way forward, who are living by love, who are living by forgiveness and grace and in convening with this higher power, whether it be the Buddha or whatever Chinese philosopher you think of, or these different avatars or religious figures of Hinduism or whatever it is. There's been enough people like that who have shown morally what they claim to be true. And that's up for you to assess, right? The danger is with assessing that, how do you know what they're saying is the right thing? How do you know what the Buddha is saying is the right thing? Sure, he's appealing to what I believe is actually inside all of us, these good things, this love that I believe is actually the essence of all reality and consciousness and the fabric of it all, and it's all in us, this piece of God, this piece of love, this piece of creation. this creation. But how do we know if what a person like a Buddha, a Jesus, whatever religious figure is saying is true? Just because they say it doesn't mean it's true and that we should live by it. Yes, it appeals to these things within us, and we can relate and say, yes, that feels true, or that is true by experience, or what I feel within me when I live by what you're saying. But equally, a person like a Hitler is saying the total opposite. But how do we know he's true? We feel by experience what is true to us and come to our own versions of truth. But our own versions of truth can be so dangerous because you look at what an influential figure like a Hitler does. Compare it to a Buddha, it's just what you're buying into. That's the danger. So how do we know that these people are telling the truth? And I've been stewing in my mind over this issue. But what I realized on this prayer walk thing just before is that what we know about Jesus that differs from all these other people is that Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, did all these things being similar to what these other religious figures are doing. He was then killed, brutally destroyed, tormented, tortured, beyond belief, eventually hung on a cross. For that, okay, could have happened to anyone. He died. Okay, there goes that. There goes all, sure, it may have been good teaching, but what of anything else? What of him being the Son of God and God being this invincible, omnipotent thing, right? There goes that. He dies, Jesus dies. Shit, all the disciples say. Scatter. Oh no. We're lost again. Jesus, I haven't done enough research, but from what I know, is the only person ever to rise from the dead after 3 days of being declared dead, having a massive, multi-tonned, probably weighing stone rolled over his tomb that he was laid in. 3 days dead. 3 days later, rises from the dead, breaks or pushes aside that rock, and walks out. His tomb is empty. 3 days he was in that tomb. I don't know if it's after the third day or what. After that period, the tomb is empty, the stone is rolled back, and Jesus is walking the streets, showing himself to people that he had ministered and discipled to before, showing himself to the woman that he taught first. Showing himself to all these people, eyewitness testimonies confirming that in history. That this man who claimed all that, who did all these teaching, who died a brutal death, that doesn't really matter, although it does in the bigger picture of Christianity, who died, was dead for 3 days, rose again, and then was seen by people. That's one thing. Christianity and the trust that the person that you're believing in, the religious figure you're believing in, it comes down to that resurrection. If someone's claiming to be the Son of God and then they die, they claim all these things and they die, but then they resurrect. I mean, that's a miracle in itself. Not only that, Jesus then resurrects, is seen by a whole lot of people. And then after teaching and doing what he needs to do before he really wraps it up, ascends to heaven. And as far as I'm aware, there's eyewitness testimonies of that happening too. No one else has done that. No one else has done that. That's the essence. That's what I've realized. As far as we know, Buddha didn't do that. As far as we know, the Hindu leading religious figures or whoever didn't do that. The Chinese philosophers, whatever, didn't do that. As far as we know, no one else did that. No one else rose from the grave, rose from their death, after claiming to be the perfect incarnation of God, and the actions demonstrate that. And then ascended again to heaven, or ascended to whatever, the afterlife, whatever it is. No one else has done that. And so that's where I feel I've got to in putting my faith in Jesus and everything that Jesus spoke about and talked about and preached and taught and said about the nature of God. If this man did that, and no other man did that, no other person did that, then that's got to be it. You know? That's got to be it. And if you come to that conclusion and can believe that to be true, then you can put your faith in the teachings of that person, in God, because that person claims to be God, is God, and then transcends this reality, dies, defeats death. No one else has been able to do that. 3 days. And then ascend to heaven. No one else has done that, right? That's the difference. And we know that to be true, or we can assume that's true based on evidence, based on the historical nature of it. Now I'm sounding like that Cliff guy. None of you will probably know who that is. But if we can get to the point of accepting that and coming to realize that the evidence points to that, then we can put our faith in that man. And if we put our faith in that man, then we have to look at what he's saying about the nature of God. The nature of God is loving, is merciful, is forgiving, does have a plan for us, can always be trusted, will never let us down, has a path laid out for us, knows who we are, knows our thoughts, our actions, our desires, our wants, our needs. This is all the things that Jesus said. He's just trying to show you the true nature of God. So if he died and he did all those things and he's saying this is the true nature of God, if we put our faith in that man, the only man to ever be able to do that, which is what this all hangs on, is that resurrection and that ascendance to heaven, then we can trust that what he's saying about God is true, about the Creator is true. And if all that's true, then that's what we need to put our faith into. We need to learn what this man was saying about the nature of the thing that created us. We need to actually take it upon ourselves to educate us as to what the nature of God is. And make sure you get that from the right person. That's the thing that I've been trying to understand, is trying to get to the heart of the truth. How do we know it's true? If we can get to the point where we can see this consistent string of events by a man who has laid out the path for transcending past the human muck and mire and problems and shortcomings and brokenness of this world, to transcend that, we have to come to understand the nature of God, and we learn that through the man who was the only person to ever resurrect and transcend, right? Who claimed to be the Son of God. So that must be it. Therefore, put our faith in that man, and by putting our faith in him, we trust that his word is true. So now let's learn about that word. Let's learn about that truth. Let's learn about God, our Creator. We all pretty much know that we are multifaceted in three ways. Our body, this flesh, this physical world, our minds, this thinking, intelligent mind thing, and our spirits. Whatever it is that animates us, that actually brings us life, that is consciousness, that is this ability to think critically and have spatial whatever. I'm not going to get into the details because I don't know them. But we're multifaceted. And I think where we all come short and lack is that so much of our focus is on this physical and mental realm. Physical being the main one, right? That's only 1/3 of who we are. Physical is where all these shortcomings and the brokenness of this world comes into play. And I'm only saying that because it sounds crazy. I'm only saying that because I feel like I've come to the truth about what is reality through putting my faith in this man who did the things that I've just said. So the physical plane is where we all can go wrong, because this world, through the free will that was given to us, means we can make decisions and choose paths and ways based on our framework of reality. So it's up to us to try and get that framework to the right place. Physical plane is where all the sins come in and destruction comes in, right? And then our mental, we try to work it all out. We're thinking too far in the future. We're planning, we're reflecting. It can be crazy in here, at least for me. All of us can relate to that, I'm sure. But then spiritual, we neglect our soul, that we were all created, that we are all a unique individual human being with inherent value, equally based on that, this soul. So if we're scrambling through life, trying to figure things out, trying to put our life in the right path, or whatever feels right to us, sooner or later, we're going to be confronted by different things that make us second guess our framework and our view of reality and our worldview. And then we got to shift. So for me, it's about finding that truth. Because I can't do it alone, you know. I've tried to figure it all out myself. So I got to surrender. But you got to surrender to the right thing. In saying that, I think when you surrender, God sees it all anyway. The Creator, whatever it is that's beyond us, that started this, He sees it anyway. So it almost doesn't matter. When you surrender and say, I can't do it anymore, please help me, you cry out, that's when that transformation happens. But for me, it's just been about understanding that we are a triad being, and that there are sort of 3 levels to our lives. What truth, what path do we then try and attribute each of those 3 things? Where do we attribute our this physical nature? Where do we attribute our mind to? Where do we attribute and connect our soul to? And I think that's so important. So important to try and get to the bottom of that. Because it's dangerous otherwise. It's dangerous. You got to figure out where you're putting your stuff to. Where's your energy going? Where are these brain paths going? What path are you carving out for yourself? What attachments, what effects are you having? Let's find the thing that is true in life and connect ourselves to it and open ourselves up to it and trust it and fall back on it and let everything else slide off, because we can't do it alone anymore, right? And that's the importance of finding that right thing to trust, to let go. Because if you're letting go, if you're having faith, you don't want to fall and there be nothing there, or there be a spike there, or there be something that looks soft and then you fall on it and then it actually just kind of grabs you and clings onto you like lust. You got to open yourself up to the right thing. And for me, based on what I was saying earlier, through really just kind of pulling my brain apart and crying out for help and giving up ultimately, I feel like I've found that through Jesus Christ, because I believe, and the evidence points to that man being the only person who lived a perfect life, who claimed to be God, who died for us all in his perfection, so that we may actually have a path and someone to go to. Died, 3 days dead, rose from the dead and ascended to heaven. That's the only person who's done that. And if there's someone else who's done that, who's claiming that we kill each other and do all this stuff and claims to be the Son of God, you know, like maybe that's the thing. It's just this man is claiming that's what God is, and he's claiming that love and forgiveness and kindness and love your neighbor as you would yourself and all this stuff, right? This moral beauty. That's what we learn from him. And it's all great stuff. That's where I want to stick my stake. I want to stick my stake on what is true and go forth. It's my 2 cents. I give up and surrender. Hey, heating up. I'm thankful for the opportunity to share this. I'm thankful for what God has done in my life. And everything else aside, I believe there is some kind of creator, ultimate being, that is above and with us all and has an essence of love. And that we need only to connect with that and open ourselves to that and invite that in. And allow the transformation to take place, baby. So thank you. And God bless.